The organ swelled like a heartbeat on the edge of breaking, filling the old wooden pews of St. Mary's Episcopal Church in Willow Creek, Ohio, where the summer sun slanted through stained glass saints like shards of forgotten promises. Noah Harper stood at the altar, his palms slick against the stem of a single white rose, staring into Emily's eyes. Those wide, trusting hazel pools that had somehow convinced him this was redemption. And then, as the pastor lifted his hands to bless the rings, the old man's voice cracked the air like thunder. Stop. This union cannot proceed. Not until the truth is spoken. For love built on silence is no love at all. Noah's world tilted, the rose slipping from his fingers to roll across the worn oak floor, its petals scattering like confetti from a party no one wanted. Whispers erupted from the congregation. His mother clutching her pearls in the front row. His father shifting uncomfortably in his starched suit. Emily's hand frozen mid-reach for the vows. But Noah's gaze locked on the pastor's weathered face, etched with the lines of too many secrets kept in small-town pulpits. And in that frozen heartbeat, he knew. This wasn't about doctrine or doubt. This was about the boy he'd buried in his chest since high school. The one whose name he hadn't whispered in 12 years. Mason. The truth uncoiled slowly, like smoke from a dying fire, pulling Noah back to the summer of 2011, when Willow Creek was nothing but fireflies and the endless hum of cicadas, and he was just 17, invincible in the way only kids with unchained hearts can be. He'd grown up in the shadow of the Harper family farm, acres of corn stretching gold under the Midwest sky, where Sundays meant potlucks and prayers, and being gay was a word tossed around like a curse in the back of pickup trucks. Noah had learned early to swallow his questions, to laugh at the jokes, to date the cheerleaders his buddies dared him to kiss. But then Mason Ellis blew into town like a storm off Lake Erie. Transferred from Cleveland after his folks split, all sharp edges and quiet fire, with eyes like polished oak and a laugh that cut through the humidity like a cool breeze. They met at the county fair, Noah elbow deep in a funnel cake, grease shining on his chin, when Mason sidled up to the ring toss booth, tossing a baseball with effortless grace. Bet you can't hit the milk bottle from here, Mason had said, his voice low and teasing, not a challenge but an invitation. Noah, heart slamming like he'd chugged 3 Cokes, grabbed the ball and lobbed it wild. Missing by a mile, but earning that grin, the one that dimpled his left cheek and made Noah's stomach flip. By midnight, they were sprawled on a hay bale behind the Ferris wheel, shoulders brushing, sharing a warm root beer and stories Mason spun from city lights Noah had only seen in movies. Cleveland's got skyscrapers that touch the clouds, Mason said, his arm slung casual across Noah's knee. But out here, feels like you can breathe for the first time. That night bled into weeks of stolen moments. Skipping algebra to smoke behind the bleachers, where Mason would trace lazy circles on Noah's wrist with his thumb, sending sparks up his arm. Late drives in Noah's beat-up Ford, windows down, Bruce Springsteen blasting Thunder Road as they raced dirt roads. Mason's hand finding Noah's on the gearshift, fingers lacing like they were made for it. Noah had never felt seen before. Not by his dad, who preached hard work over heartaches, or his mom, whose hugs smelled of lavender and unspoken fears. With Mason, the world sharpened. The way sunlight caught the freckles on his nose, the soft hitch in his breath when Noah leaned in too close during a movie at the drive-in. Their first kiss happened under a harvest moon. Behind the old grain silo, tentative and tasting of cherry lip balm Mason swore, was for chapped lips from football practice. But it wasn't practice that had them breathless, tangled in each other's shirts, hearts pounding in sync as Mason whispered, "This is us, Noah, real as the dirt under our nails." Love in Willow Creek wasn't supposed to look like that. Whispers started by fall, glances in the locker room, a snicker when they walked too close in the halls. Noah's best friend, Tyler, cornered him one afternoon after practice, sweat still beading on his forehead. "Dude, people are talking. You gonna let that fag from the city ruin you?" The word landed like a fist, but Noah shoved it down, told himself it was just small-town noise. Mason heard it too, though. Noah saw it in the way his shoulders tensed at pep rallies, the forced casualness when he'd pull away in public. "It's nothing," Mason would say, but his eyes begged Noah to believe it, even as the fear crept in like frost on the fields. By winter, the cracks showed. Mason's mom, a brittle woman with a cigarette always dangling from her lips, had moved them into a trailer on the edge of town, and she'd started eyeing Noah like he was the reason her boy came home late, smelling of hay and something wilder. One night, after a snow-dusted bonfire where they'd held hands under a blanket until their fingers went numb, Mason showed up at Noah's window at 2 a.m., face streaked with tears. "She's sending me back to Cleveland," he choked out, climbing through the sash. "Says I need to get my head straight, Noah. Like I'm broken." They clung to each other in the dark of Noah's room, posters of MLB stars staring down like silent judges. Mason's sobs muffled against Noah's neck. "I can't leave you," he whispered. And Noah, voice fierce, promised. "Then don't. We'll run. To the city, anywhere." But promises in boyhood are fragile as icicles. The next day, Mason vanished. No note, no call, just an empty locker and rumors that his mom had packed him off at dawn. Noah drove to the trailer park, heart in his throat, only to find it barren, for sale sign flapping in the wind. He waited by the phone for weeks, skipping meals, staring at the ceiling until his mom dragged him to counseling at church, where Pastor Elias, young then, barely 30, with a kind face that hid his own storms, sat him down and said, "Son, God's got a plan. Sometimes it hurts like hell to see it." Noah nodded, but inside, the plan felt like a lie, a cage disguised as grace. Years blurred after that. Noah threw himself into the farm, into community college for agribusiness, into Emily, sweet, steady Emily from the diner, who baked pies that won blue ribbons and never asked why he flinched at old Springsteen tapes. She was safety, the kind his parents prayed for. A wedding in St. Mary's, grandkids someday, a life that fit the Harper mold. He loved her, in the quiet way you love a sunset. Beautiful, reliable, but not the blaze that scorched your soul. Mason became a ghost, a name Noah boxed away with faded Polaroids and the dog-eared copy of The Catcher in the Rye they'd passed back and forth. Now, standing in that same church, 12 years later, with Emily's veil trembling in the draft from the vestibule, Pastor Elias, graying now, eyes heavy with the weight of confessions, cleared his throat again. The congregation leaned forward, a collective intake of breath, as if the saints in the glass were holding theirs too. "Noah," the pastor said, voice steady as the Ohio River. "Before God and these witnesses, I must speak what was confessed to me long ago. Mason Ellis didn't leave of his own accord. He wrote to me that night begging for help, and I failed him, failed you both. But he's here now, in this town, carrying the scar of what we all let happen." Emily's gasp echoed, sharp as shattering crystal, but Noah barely heard it. His knees buckled, the world narrowing to a pinpoint. Mason, here, alive, breathing the same air. After all the nights Noah had stared at the ceiling, wondering if love like theirs could die or just go dormant, waiting for spring. The sanctuary doors creaked open then, as if on cue from some divine scriptwriter, and there he was, Mason Ellis, stepping into the light like a frame from a faded home movie. Taller now, broader in the shoulders, with the same oak-brown eyes shadowed by years neither had shared. He wore a simple button-down, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded from manual labor, and his hair, once wild curls, was cropped close, threaded with early silver that made Noah's chest ache with the unfairness of time. The congregation murmured, heads swiveling like spectators at a tennis match, but Mason's gaze cut straight through, locking on Noah's with an intensity that pinned him in place. "I'm sorry," Mason said, voice rough as gravel, carrying across the pews, "for everything. But you deserve to know why I never came back." Pastor Elias nodded, stepping aside like a stage manager yielding the spotlight, and Mason moved forward, each step measured, as if the floor might crack beneath him. Emily, bless her, released Noah's hand with a soft exhale, her face crumpling not in anger, but in the quiet understanding of a woman who'd always sensed the hollow in his hugs. She slipped into the front pew beside Noah's mother, who sat rigid, lips pressed thin, while his father stared at his shoes, polishing an invisible scuff with his toe. The air thickened, heavy with the scent of lilies and unspoken indictments, as Mason halted a breath away from the altar, close enough for Noah to catch the faint trace of his cologne. Sandalwood and citrus, the same as that summer night under the silo. "I didn't leave because I wanted to," Mason began, addressing not just Noah but the room, his words falling like stones into still water. "My mom, she found the letter I'd written you, the one planning our escape. She burned it, then drove me to Cleveland herself, locked me in that apartment with my grandma, and told the pastor here." He glanced at Elias, no venom, just weary truth. "That I'd confessed some teenage confusion. But it wasn't confusion, Noah. It was you. Us." A ripple went through the crowd. Mrs. Hargrove from the bakery gasping, old Mr. Jenkins muttering about city vices. But Mason pressed on, voice gaining steel. "I wrote to Elias for help, thinking a man of God would understand mercy. He wrote back once, said to pray it away. I tried. God knows I tried." Noah's throat closed, memories flooding hot and unbidden. The empty trailer, the endless drives to nowhere, the way he'd punched the silo until his knuckles bled, screaming Mason's name into the wind. He'd built a life on that silence, brick by careful brick. Nights volunteering at the food bank with Emily, mornings fixing fences with his dad, afternoons in the fields where the corn whispered secrets he ignored. But now, with Mason standing there, the bricks crumbled, dust in his lungs. "Why now?" Noah managed, voice cracking like dry earth. "After all this time?" Mason's eyes softened, that dimple flickering like a half-remembered smile. "Because I heard about the wedding. Drove through the night from Pittsburgh, where I've been laying pipe for gas lines, scraping by because every job reminds me of what I lost. I couldn't let you walk into this without knowing." He pulled a folded paper from his pocket, yellowed at the edges, and held it out. Not to Noah, but to the pastor. "This is the letter, the one you ignored. Read it, Elias. Let them hear what praying it away cost." The pastor took it with trembling hands, unfolding it like a relic, and began to read aloud, his voice weaving Mason's teenage desperation into the sacred space. Pleas for guidance, vows of love that burned the page, a boy's heart laid bare in ink that smudged from tears long dried. Gasps turned to sobs. Emily's, surprisingly, the first to break. And Noah felt his own eyes sting, the rose petals at his feet blurring into a white haze. When Elias finished, silence reigned, thick and accusatory, until Noah's mother rose, her floral dress rustling like autumn leaves. "Boy," she said to Mason, voice quivering but not unkind. "You've got some nerve showing up like this, but sit. We'll talk after." The wedding dissolved into chaos after that. Guests milling like stunned cattle, Emily's bridesmaids fluttering with offers of coffee and comfort, the organist playing a hesitant recessional that no one followed. Noah found himself outside on the church steps, the July sun beating down merciless like judgment, gulping air that tasted of honeysuckle and regret. Mason followed, leaning against the stone balustrade, close but not touching, as if the years had taught him the peril of proximity. "I live in a duplex off Route 23 now," Mason said softly, breaking the quiet. "Came back last month. Got a job at the mill. Figured Willow Creek owed me a second chance." Noah laughed, a bitter bark that echoed off the parking lot Fords and Chevys. "Owed you? What about me? I waited, Mason. Wrote letters I never sent, drove to Cleveland once. Parked outside your grandma's like some stalker from a bad movie. You vanished and I convinced myself it was a dream, that we were just kids playing house." He turned, meeting those eyes, and the pull was magnetic, gravitational, yanking him back to the boy who'd made him feel infinite. But anger simmered beneath, hot as the asphalt underfoot. "And now you waltz in, play the hero, upend my life? Emily didn't deserve that." Mason winced, rubbing the back of his neck. A gesture Noah remembered from post-game showers, when he'd soothe away the sting of losses. "She seems like a good woman, but this..." He gestured vaguely at the church, the life unraveling behind them. "This isn't you, Noah. Hiding in plain sight, same as I did for years. Dated women, buried myself in work, told myself it was fine until it wasn't. Woke up one morning in a Pittsburgh bar, staring at a guy who looked like you, and realized I'd been running from ghosts. The confession hung between them, fragile as the spiderwebs draping the oaks lining the lot. Noah wanted to shove him, to kiss him, to walk away and never look back. All at once, a storm in his veins. Instead, he sank onto the steps, elbows on knees, and let the truth settle like dust after a twister. What do you want, Mason? Absolution? A do-over? Mason sat beside him, not too close, the heat of his body a whisper across the space. I want you to choose, not out of fear or what the town thinks. Just you. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in strokes of peach and violet, they talked, not of the past's sharp edges, but of the present's tentative bridges. Mason spoke of his job at the mill, the satisfaction of shaping steel into something solid. Noah shared the farm's endless cycle, the quiet pride in coaxing life from soil that fought back. Laughter crept in, tentative, when Mason mimicked his old coach's whistle, and for a moment, the years folded away, leaving just two men on stone steps, hearts sinking like they never stopped. But Willow Creek wasn't kind to second acts. As dusk fell, Noah's father emerged, face carved from the same stern oak as the church doors. Son, he rumbled, eyes flicking to Mason with the wariness of a farmer spotting blight. We got talking inside. Your mother's upset, Emily too. This boy's got a lot to answer for. Mason stood, chin lifting, ready for the reckoning. But Noah rose between them, a barrier of flesh and frayed resolve. Dad, it's not that simple. None of it was. The older man sighed, the sound heavy with the weight of harvests and heartbreaks unspoken. Life's simple if you let it be, Noah. Church, family, land, that's our truth. He clapped Mason's shoulder, not gentle but not cruel, and walked to his truck, leaving the echo of boots on gravel. Mason exhaled, tension bleeding out. He's not wrong, but he's not all of it either. That night, Noah drove Mason to the old grain silo, the Ford's headlights cutting swaths through the dark fields. Springsteen low on the radio like a talisman. They didn't speak much, the silence companionable now, laced with the what-ifs they'd both hoarded. At the silo, moonlight silvered the rusting metal, and they leaned against it, shoulders brushing accidental on purpose. Remember, Mason murmured, and Noah nodded, the memory vivid. Lips meeting, world exploding in stars. This time, no kiss, just a hand on his arm, steadying, promising tomorrow's unscripted. Dawn broke over Willow Creek like a reluctant confession, pink fingers prying at the horizon, illuminating the Harper farmhouse where Noah hadn't slept. He'd lain in the guest room, his old boyhood space, posters yellowed, baseball trophies gathering dust. Staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, replaying the pastor's words, Mason's voice, the way Emily's hand had slipped from his like a leaf in the current. By sunrise, the house stirred, coffee percolating in the kitchen, his mother's footsteps soft on the linoleum, a ritual as ingrained as the corn rose outside. Noah descended, bracing for the inquisition, only to find Emily at the table, cradling a mug, her makeup smudged but eyes clear, no trace of the bride who'd trembled hours before. Noah, she said, voice steady as the diner counter she'd manned for years. Sit, we need to talk. Really talk, not the polite bullshit we've been feeding each other. He obeyed, the chair scraping like a guilty verdict, and she pushed a plate of toast his way, butter gleaming untouched. I knew, not the details but the shape of it. The way you'd go quiet when certain songs played, or stare at the lake like it held answers. I thought, maybe time would fill the gaps. But yesterday, that was clarity, ugly as it was. Guilt twisted in Noah's gut, sharp as barbed wire. Emily had been his anchor, the woman who'd laughed at his dumb farmer jokes, who'd bandaged his hands after silo punches he never explained. I'm sorry, he whispered, reaching for her hand. But she pulled back gently, not rejection but release. You don't owe me your life. Just be honest with yourself. With him. She stood, smoothing her rumpled blouse, and leaned down to kiss his forehead, sisterly, absolving. I'll be at my sister's in Columbus for a bit. Figure things out. But Noah, don't waste this. Life's too short for pretend. She left with a duffel and her car keys, the screen door slapping shut like a period at the end of a sentence. Noah's mother appeared then, arms crossed over her apron, flour dusting her cheeks from biscuits she'd never bake alone. That girl's got more grace than half the saints in there, she said, not accusing, but her eyes, blue like his, lined with worry, searched his face. What now, son? You gonna chase ghosts or build something real? He had no answer, just a mug of black coffee that burned going down, mirroring the fire reigniting in his chest. By noon, he was in his truck, gravel crunching under tires as he headed to the mill on the town's outskirts, where smoke belched from stacks like the town's exhaled doubts. Mason was there, in coveralls stained with grease, welding a seam on a massive press, sparks flying like fireflies in reverse. Noah watched from the chain-link fence, heart hammering, until Mason spotted him, killing the torch and striding over, wiping sweat from his brow with a forearm rag. Didn't expect you here, Mason said, but his smile, tentative, hopeful, belied the words. Boss gives lunch in 10. Walk with me. They fell into step along the riverbank trail, the Ohio's muddy churn a counterpoint to the awkward rhythm of their conversation. Mason talked shop. The mill's hum, the camaraderie of the crew, how welding felt like mending what was broken. Noah shared farm woes, the drought's bite last summer, his dad's stubborn refusal of irrigation tech, and slowly, the ice thawed, words flowing freer. At a weathered picnic table by the water, they unpacked sandwiches from Mason's cooler, turkey on rye with mustard sharp as memory. I thought about you every damn day, Mason admitted, staring at the river as if it might carry the confession away. Kept a photo in my wallet. Us at the fair, arms slung around each other like idiots. Wore it out, folding it open. Noah's throat tightened, picturing that wallet, threadbare from years of labor. I burned mine, after Cleveland. Figured it was poison. He paused, the admission heavy. But I couldn't forget, even when I tried, for Emily, for Mom and Dad, for this town that chews up different and spits it out. Mason nodded, understanding bone deep. Cleveland wasn't better. Grandma was church every Sunday, fire and brimstone type. I joined the Marines at 18, thought drill sergeants could beat the bend out of me. Desert sand, buddies dying, none of it fixed what was wired in. Discharged honorably, but the letters home? All lies about girls in bars. He laughed, hollow. Landed in Pittsburgh. Finally came out to a bar buddy over beers. Felt like exhaling after holding breath a decade. The vulnerability cracked something in Noah. A dam he'd shored up with duty and denial. I want to hate you for leaving, he said, voice raw. But I get it. We were kids against the world. Their knees brushed under the table, electric, and neither pulled away. As the lunch whistle blew, Mason stood, offering a hand up. Not just physical, but an invitation to stand taller. Dinner tonight? My place. No pressure, just talk more. Noah accepted, the yes slipping easy as slipping into old jeans. The afternoon dragged on the farm, his dad eyeing him sidelong over fence posts, questions unspoken but loud in the hammer strikes. Heard Ellis is back, Dad grunted finally, driving a nail home. Trouble follows that boy like crows. Noah straightened, wire cutters in hand. Maybe trouble's what we need, Dad, to shake the dust off. Dusk found him at Mason's duplex, a modest brick two-story off Route 23, porch light flickering welcome, pots of geraniums nodding in the breeze. A touch Noah wouldn't have guessed, soft against Mason's rough edges. Inside smelled of spaghetti sauce simmering, garlic and basil weaving through the air, and Mason greeted him in jeans and a faded Marine's tee, apron tied loose. Hope you're hungry. Only thing I cook without burning. They ate at a scarred oak table, candles guttering in mason jars. Ironic, Noah thought, laughing as he said it aloud. Conversation meandered. Favorite Springsteen tracks. Mason for Born to Run, Noah for Racing in the Street, the Mills Union fights, the farm's co-op dramas. Laughter came easier, unguarded, and after plates cleared, they migrated to the living room, a sagging couch facing a window overlooking the woods. Mason poured bourbon. Cheap, from the corner store, but it warmed like homecoming, loosening tongues. "Tell me about the years I missed," Mason said. Legs stretched, vulnerability in the firelight. Noah did, halting at first. The college flings that fizzled. The church youth group where he'd led Bible studies while wrestling demons. Emily's proposal under Christmas lights that felt like surrender. "I loved her," he insisted, more to himself. "But it was safe love. Not the kind that rewires you." Mason leaned forward, elbows on knees. "That's why I came back. Not to wreck things, but because I saw the obit for your grandpa. Same paper I read in Pittsburgh. And it hit me. Life slipping, Noah. We got one shot." His hand found Noah's on the cushion, tentative, and Noah didn't withdraw. The touch grounding, alive with possibility. They talked until the bourbon bottle emptied, stars pricking the sky outside, and when Mason walked him to the door, the goodbye lingered. A hug that pressed close, hearts thumping Morse code. But betrayal's shadow loomed, even in the afterglow. As Noah drove home, phone buzzing with a text from Tyler, his old friend, now a deputy with a beer gut and grudges, heard about the church stunt. Ellis bringing his shit back. "Watch your back, man." Noah deleted it, but unease coiled, a reminder that Willow Creek forgave slow, if at all. The next days blurred into a tentative rhythm. Mornings on the farm, afternoons stolen at the river, where they'd skip stones and share silences heavy with what-ifs. Mason opened up about the Marines. The brotherhood that saved him, the isolation that nearly broke him. While Noah confessed the panic attacks after Mason left, the therapy he'd hidden from his folks. Passion simmered, not in grand gestures but in glances held too long, brushes of fingers over shared tools. One evening, repairing a fence line where Mason volunteered his welding skills, their hands met on a post, and the air charged, electric as a storm front. "I missed this," Mason breathed, and Noah, emboldened, closed the gap. Not a kiss, but foreheads touching, breaths mingling. It was enough, a spark in the dry tinder of their history. Yet conflict brewed. At the weekly potluck, St. Mary's staple, picnic tables groaning under casseroles and cobblers. Noah's mother pulled him aside, voice low amid the chatter. "Folks are talking, son. Pastor Elias is stepping down. Guilt eating him alive. And your father, he's hearing whispers from the elders. About sin, about the farm's reputation." Her eyes pleaded. "I love you, Noah, but this town's got teeth." Noah's resolve hardened, a fence post driven deep. "Then maybe it's time we pulled them." The whispers turned to winds by mid-August, Willow Creek's humidity thickening with judgment as surely as the air before a squall. Noah felt it in the diner's sidelong glances when he picked up his coffee, in the way old Mr. Jenkins crossed the street rather than nod hello, in the terse voicemails from the co-op board hinting at community standards for loans. His father, ever the stoic, channeled it into silence at the breakfast table, forks scraping plates like accusations unspoken, until one muggy evening, as thunder rumbled distant over the fields, he cornered Noah in the barn, pitchfork in hand like a scepter of paternal decree. "Enough," Dad growled. Hay dust motes dancing in the lantern light. "This Ellis business, it's poison, boy. Church elders called today. Said the pastor's resignation's got your name tangled in it. And the farm? Word's out you're involved. Co-op's rethinking that equipment line we need." His face, weathered by decades under the sun, cracked with something raw. Not just anger, but fear. The kind etched from losing a brother to the bottle, a livelihood to floods. "I built this for you, Noah. Straight path, no detours. You throw it away for what? Some ghost from high school." Noah leaned against a stall, the mare inside nickering soft, grounding him. "It's not throwing away, Dad. It's claiming. Mason's not a ghost, he's real and so am I. The parts you and the town tried to bury." The words hung, bold as he'd ever spoken them, and for a heartbeat, he saw flicker in his father's eyes, recognition, perhaps, of echoes from his own youth. a college romance whispered away by duty. But the moment passed, Dad turning to fork hay with vicious jabs. Claim what you want, but don't cry when it costs us the roof. Blood's thicker than whatever this is. The betrayal stung deeper than Noah expected. Not from Mason, but from the man who'd taught him to mend fences, now drawing lines in the dirt. He stormed out into the rain-lashed night, truck tires spinning mud as he barreled to Mason's duplex. Mason answered the door soaked from his own shift, hair plastered, but pulled him inside without question, towels and tea appearing like magic. Talk? Mason said simply, settling on the couch, and Noah did, pouring out the barn confrontation, the co-op threats, the ache of his father's conditional love. Mason listened, jaw tight, then pulled Noah into a hug that smelled of rain and resolve. My mom did the same, disowned me proper after I came out in a letter last year. Mailed it with my new address, hoping for bridge mending. Got back a Bible verse on judgment. Postmarked return to sender. His voice cracked, just once, and Noah held tighter, the shared wound a bond stronger than blood. But we're not them, Noah. We choose different. That choice ignited the romance they'd both craved, tentative at first. Walks along the river at twilight, hands clasped unapologetic, Mason's thumb tracing Noah's knuckles like braille of affection. Dinners evolved. Mason's spaghetti giving way to Noah's grilled corn from the farm. Eaten on the porch swing under strings of Edison bulbs, Mason hung himself. Laughter filled the spaces, stories swapped like treasures. Mason's disastrous attempt at line dancing in Pittsburgh. Noah's secret poetry scribbled in field journals. Verses of longing he'd never shared. Passion built slow, a simmer not a blaze. Kisses stolen in the truck cab after drives, soft and searching, tasting of second chances. Nights on the couch, heads on laps, fingers carding through hair as movies flickered forgotten. Yet the town's teeth bit harder. Tyler, deputy's badge gleaming like false virtue, pulled Noah over one night on a back road, breath mints masking the beer on his. Just a routine, buddy, Tyler drawled, flashlight piercing the cab where Mason sat shotgun. Heard you've been keeping company. Town's got rules, unwritten but ironclad. Don't make me write this up. The implication hung. Vandalism rumors at the mill, whispers of slashed tires. Noah's hands gripped the wheel white-knuckled. Rules change, Ty. Or they break. Mason, silent fury in his eyes, later confessed his own ghosts. A bar fight in Cleveland, knuckles bloodied defending his truth. The ex-boyfriend who'd outed him to his crew for leverage in a breakup. Betrayal's the real killer, Mason said, as they lay side by side on a blanket by the silo one star-strewn night, hands linked overhead. Not the hate. It's the ones who knew you best, turning the knife. Noah turned to him, profile silvered by moon, and kissed him then, deep, unhurried. A vow sealed in the rust and romance of their origin. It was fire, yes, but tender, exploratory, bodies aligning like puzzle pieces long separated. Whispers of I love you breathed against skin. Not demands but discoveries. The idol shattered mid-September, harvest moon fat and accusatory. Pastor Elias, cleared of conscience by his pulpit mea culpa, invited them to a reconciliation service. Small, invite only, in the church basement. Noah went wary, Mason at his side, hands brushing for courage. The room held familiar faces. His parents, Emily back for a visit with steel in her spine. Even Tyler lurking by the coffee urn. Elias spoke first, voice quaking. I've carried this shame 12 years. Failed two boys God made in his image. Today we mend, or at least we try. Tears tracked his cheeks, and applause rippled, tentative. But Tyler stepped forward, face flushed. Mend? This ain't about your guilt, preacher. It's about protecting what's ours. He turned to Noah, eyes hard. You think we don't see? Parading around with him like Willow Creek's some rainbow parade. My kid asks questions now, why Uncle Noah's got a boyfriend. What do I say? The room tensed, forks pausing mid-casserole, and Mason stiffened beside Noah, ready to bolt or brawl. Noah stood, pulse thundering. You say it's love, Ty. Same as yours for Sarah. or you teach him hate, and that's on you." The words landed, room fracturing into murmurs. But his father rose then, slow, deliberate. "He's right," Dad said, voice gravel. "I've been wrong, stubborn, scared. Lost my brother to silence once. Won't lose my son to it." The admission hung, seismic, and his mother nodded, tears bright, pulling Noah into an embrace that smelled of home. Emily spoke last, voice clear. "I came back to say I'm happy for you. Truly. And Ty, grow up." Laughter broke the tension, cathartic. And as the group dispersed into hugs and handshakes, Mason pulled Noah aside, eyes shining. "You did that." Stood tall. But betrayal's final twist waited in the shadows. Driving home, phone rang, unknown number. A voice Noah hadn't heard since Cleveland. Mason's mother, shrill and unyielding. "I know about you too. Saw the church photos online. Small town's curse. Stay away from my boy, or I'll tell everyone what he really is. The weakness I fixed." Click. Mason, hearing, went pale, old wounds reopening. "She never stopped," he whispered. "Thinks she can still control." Noah pulled over, cradling Mason's face. "She can't. We decide now." October swept into Willow Creek with crisp edges, leaves carpeting the roads in crimson and gold, mirroring the raw beauty of wounds half-healed. Noah and Mason's bond deepened, roots delving past the surface scars. Mornings shared with coffee on the duplex porch, watching fog lift from the fields. Evenings in the barn, Mason teaching Noah to weld, sparks illuminating faces flushed with effort and something electric. Love manifested in the mundane. Noah leaving farm-fresh eggs at Mason's door, Mason slipping wildflowers into Noah's truck glove box, notes tucked inside reading for the boy who made stars jealous. It was romantic without fanfare, the kind forged in shared labors, where a glance across a crowded harvest festival said more than sonnets. Yet Mason's mother's call lingered like black mold. Insidious. She escalated, voicemails laced with scripture twisted venomous, letters arriving at the mill with photos from Mason's youth, circled in red, him with Noah at the fair, labeled the sin that started it all. Mason burned them in the backyard fire pit, flames devouring the past, but the ash settled heavy. "She's dying," he confessed one night, rain pattering the tin roof as they huddled under quilts on the couch. "Cancer, stage 4, called to say goodbye, then that, wants absolution on her terms." Noah held him through the sobs, body a bulwark against the storm. "Go see her. Not for forgiveness for you. Close the circle." Mason resisted, pride a shield, but Noah persisted, gentle as plowing fallow ground. "We're stronger together. I'll drive you." The road to Cleveland unfolded like an unraveling spool. I-71 North cutting through farmlands fading to suburbs. Radio humming low with Lucinda Williams' ballads of heartache and homecoming. Mason stared out the window, fingers drumming the armrest, until Ohio's flat expanse gave way to the city's steel pulse. They arrived at the hospice unannounced, a squat building smelling of antiseptic and wilted hope, where Mason's mother lay frail in a bed too big, oxygen hissing rhythmic. Her eyes, once sharp as switchblades, widened at the sight of them. Hand in hand, unashamed. "You," she rasped, gaze pinning Noah like a specimen. "The poison." But weakness softened the barb, and Mason stepped forward, voice steady. "No, Mom. The love. The one you tried to drown." He sat, taking her hand, bony, veined blue, and spoke truths long damned. The pain of her exile, the years of silence that echoed her own losses. "I forgive you," he said finally, tears carving paths down his cheeks. "But I choose this. Him. Us." She wept then, not defiance but surrender, whispering apologies fractured by coughs. "Feared for you. Thought I saved you." Noah stood silent sentinel, offering a nod when her eyes sought his, not absolution, but acknowledgement. As they left, her frail wave followed, a benediction bittersweet. In the parking lot, Mason collapsed against the truck, spent. "It's done," he breathed, and Noah kissed his temple, salt and solace. "Welcome home." Back in Willow Creek, The air cleared, autumn's chill sharpening appetites for change. Noah came out proper, at the co-op meeting, standing before skeptical faces with Mason at his elbow. "This is my partner," he announced, voice carrying like a harvest call. "And our farm's future depends on trust, not rumors." Murmurs rippled, but nods followed, slow from some, enthusiastic from Emily, who'd started a quiet alliance of allies. His father, in the corner, met his eye with a gruff, "Proud of you, son." The loan passed, tentative bridge built. Romance bloomed fuller now, unshadowed. A weekend getaway to the Cuyahoga Valley, hiking trails where leaves crunched underfoot, picnics of cheese and cider, nights in a creaky B&B with windows open to owl calls. There, in a four-poster bed, they made love. Not urgent, but reverent, bodies mapping familiar terrains with new wonder, whispers of forever exchanged in the afterglow. "Marry me," Mason murmured at dawn, ringless but earnest, and Noah's yes was a vow, sealed with sunrise. But climax crested not in joy, but crisis. Thanksgiving loomed, tables set for uneasy truces, when Tyler, emboldened by eggnog or grudge, confronted Mason at the festival bonfire. "You think you're home?" Tyler sneered, breath foul, shoving Mason against a hay bale. "City queer's gonna ruin us all." Fists flew, Mason blocking, not striking, until Noah waded in, pulling Tyler back. "Enough!" The scuffle drew eyes, flames leaping shadows on shocked faces, and in the melee, Tyler's badge clattered into the dirt, authority stripped bare. The aftermath fractured, Tyler suspended, town dividing into camps, old guards decrying moral decay, younger voices rallying with petitions for Pastor Elias's successor, a progressive from Toledo. Noah's family circled wagons, his mother baking pies for both sides, Dad offering gruff mediation at the VFW. Mason, bruised but unbowed, turned inward, doubt creeping. "Maybe I am poison," he said one night, ice packed to his jaw. "Brought this storm." Noah refused the narrative, pulling him to the river at midnight, moon path shimmering like promise. "Storm's clear. And you? You're the light after." They stood ankle-deep in the chill flow, hands clasped, vowing resilience. But betrayal's echo lingered in a letter from Cleveland. His mother's will, leaving Mason a pittance with a note. "For the boy I couldn't save." It cut deep, reopening the exile, and Mason spiraled, nights pacing, days distant at the mill. Noah fought for them, enlisting Emily's counsel, her own healing a blueprint. "He needs to grieve her, not the monster she became at the end," she advised over diner coffee. Noah organized a ritual. Driving to the silo at solstice, ashes from the burned letters scattered in the wind, words spoken like incantation. "We release the chains," Noah intoned, and Mason, voice breaking, added, "and claim the wings." Winter whispered in, snow dusting the fields like forgiveness tentative, their love a hearth against the cold. Deeper for the forging, romantic in its quiet tenacity. January's grip on Willow Creek was iron-fisted, winds howling off the lake like banshees mourning old sins, blanketing the town in white that muffled but never silenced the fractures. Noah and Mason weathered it together, the duplex a sanctuary of soup pots and stacked cordwood, evenings curled by the fireplace with books. Steinbeck for Noah, Kerouac for Mason. Reading aloud until voices blended, stories intertwining like their lives. Romance persisted in the frost. Mittened hands swung on walks to the frozen river, skates rented for clumsy laps, laughter echoing as they fell into drifts, kissing snowflakes from lashes. It was the human warmth in winter's maw, profound in its simplicity, a testament to loves that endure. Yet the town's schism deepened, fault lines cracking wider. Tyler's suspension bred resentment, his allies, blue-collar holdouts from the mill, circulating flyers decrying agenda over American values. Pastor Elias's vacancy, a pulpit for firebrands. Noah found one taped to the farm gate. Harper's betrayal. Family farm falls to sin. His father tore it down, face thunderous, but the damage seeped. Vandalism at the co-op. Tires slashed on Mason's truck. whispers at the grocery that followed like smoke. "They're scared," Emily said, joining them for chili one night, her presence a bridge. "Change feels like loss. But we've got numbers now. Kids from the high school GSA. Even Hargrove's converting her bakery sign to rainbows." Mason, scars itching under the onslaught, wavered. "What if we leave? Pittsburgh's got jobs, communities that don't stare." The question hung, a specter, and Noah's heart clenched, visions of silos and sunsets, the farm's pulse in his veins. "Run? We'd just trade one cage for another. No, this is our ground. We claim it." The high tide of conflict crashed at the town hall meeting, convened for the pastorate vote, gymnasiums packed with folding chairs and folded arms. Noah and Mason sat front row, hands hidden but linked under the table, as candidates paraded. A conservative from Akron thundering brimstone, a woman from Dayton preaching inclusion. Tension crackled, air thick with coffee and cologne, until Tyler, demoted to audience, stood unbidden, microphone snatched. "This town's Christian. We don't bend for them." He jabbed a finger at Mason, face purpled. "Ellis ruined lives once, left Harper broken. Now he's back to finish the job." Chaos erupted, shouts, chairs scraping, a woman fainting in the fray. Mason surged up, voice cutting the din. "I left because I was run off by fear like yours, Tyler. But Noah, he's stronger than your hate." Noah joined him, arm around waist defiant. "We're not asking permission. We're here. Love us or loathe us, this is family." The room fractured, half applauding, half jeering. But the progressive candidate won by slim margin. Her first sermon a olive branch. "God saves through truth, not towers." Whispers of reconciliation stirred. Potlucks reborn inclusive, co-op loans flowing freer. But personal betrayal struck deepest, unforeseen. Pastor Elias, seeking full atonement, confessed a final secret over coffee at the diner. "That letter from Mason? I didn't just ignore it. I showed it to your father, Noah. Thought it intervention. Tough love to save you both." The revelation landed like a gut punch, Elias's eyes pleading mercy. Noah drove home numb, confronting Dad in the kitchen, letter facsimile on the table like Exhibit A. "You knew? All those years, the silence. You let me grieve alone." Dad deflated, shoulders slumping like felled timber. "Thought I was protecting you. From scandal, from hell. But I lost you instead." Tears, rare as rain in drought, tracked his cheeks. "Forgive an old fool?" Noah's anger warred with ache, but love, the filial kind, stubborn as soil, won. "Not yet, but we'll work on it." Hugs followed, awkward, healing. Spring unfurled tentative, dogwoods blooming pink against the thaw, mirroring the slow mend. Mason and Noah planned a commitment ceremony, not wedding pomp, but quiet gathering at the silo. Family, Emily as officiant, vows exchanged under harvest moon redux. "I choose you," Mason said, ring simple gold. Through storms and silences, Noah echoed, "And I you roots and wings." Laughter mingled with tears, his parents toasting with cider, Tyler absent but a card arriving. Learning, slow, sorry. The human heart, it turned out, bent toward light. Willow Creek didn't transform overnight. Glances lingered, sermons tiptoed, but progress rooted, GSA clubs sprouting, pride flags fluttering discreet at festivals. Noah and Mason built. Farm stand expanded with Mason's welded sculptures, duplex traded for a fixer-upper on the river, nights filled with dreams spoken aloud. Years later, under that same moon, they'd reflect, not on the pastor's halt, the revelations raw, but the truth that saved. Love unburied was salvation itself. In America's heartland, amid corn and crucibles, they thrived. Not perfect, but profoundly, humanely whole.